What does it feel like to be ahead of Babe Ruth? Not tied, not close, ahead. Actually, genuinely, statistically, ahead of the most famous home run hitter who ever lived. In the middle of the season, everyone has already decided belongs to him. In the stadium they built because of him. In front of 60,000 people who came specifically to watch him. Lou Gehrig is about to find out. And then he is about to find out what happens next. Let's set the scene. July 4th, 1927, is not a regular baseball day. It is a holiday doubleheader. 2 games, back-to-back. The kind of afternoon that fills a stadium to its absolute limit, because nobody has anywhere else to be, and the Yankees are the Yankees, and Babe Ruth is Babe Ruth. And even in a pennant race that has been over since May, people show up. 60,000 people, flags everywhere. The particular electricity of a city celebrating itself on a summer afternoon with the best baseball team in history playing in the Bronx. And here is what those 60,000 people do not know when they sit down for the first pitch. They do not know that by the time the afternoon is over, the home run standings in the American League are going to look different than they have looked all season. They do not know that the man they came to watch, the Babe, the Sultan, the reason this stadium exists, is about to be displaced from the top of the leaderboard by the quiet man batting right behind him. Babe Ruth is 32 years old in 1927. He has held the home run record since 1919. He has broken it multiple times. He has built an entire mythology around his relationship with the baseball. The slow trot, the grin, the tip of the cap, the theatrical certainty of a man who has made the home run his personal property and intends to keep it that way. Coming into July 4th, he has 25 home runs. A good pace. Not his best pace, but a solid one. And everyone in baseball knows that Ruth in September is a different creature from Ruth in April, that the back half of his seasons have historically been where the real damage gets done. Lou Gehrig is 23 years old. He has been a full-time Yankee for 2 seasons. He is broad-shouldered, thick-legged, square-jawed, and almost completely without theatrical instinct. When Gehrig hits a home run, it arrives like a line drive and departs like a professional obligation, head down, around the bases, back to the dugout, next batter. He does not grin at the infielders. He does not tip his cap to the crowd. He does not make it an event. The press has started paying attention. In late June, Gehrig tied Ruth with 24 home runs, and the newspapers began tracking the 2 of them side by side every morning, a daily accounting of who is ahead and by how much. Coming into July 4th, they are separated by 1. Ruth 25, Gehrig 24. 1 home run. The kind of gap that can disappear in a single at-bat. First game of the doubleheader. The Washington Senators are in town. A decent team, not a great one. Pitching staff good enough to make you work, but not good enough to stop what is coming this afternoon. Gehrig steps to the plate in the first game, and the at-bat follows the pattern that opposing pitchers have been discovering all season. Gehrig waits. Gehrig reads. Gehrig makes contact with the kind of authority that doesn't negotiate with the outfield wall, it simply clears it. Home run. 25. Tied with Ruth. The crowd reacts the way crowds react to Gehrig home runs in 1927, with genuine appreciation and then an immediate pivot back to watching for Ruth. Because Ruth is Ruth, and Gehrig is Gehrig, and the 60,000 people in Yankee Stadium came to watch one of them specifically. Second game of the doubleheader. The afternoon is wearing on, the shadows starting to lengthen across the infield grass. The holiday crowd still full and loud despite the heat. Gehrig comes up again. The pitcher tries to work around the edges. Gehrig is not a man you can blow a fastball past, and everyone who has faced him more than twice knows this. Gehrig is patient in a way that looks almost passive until the moment it isn't, and then the ball is gone, and you are watching it land somewhere you didn't want it to land. Home run number 2 of the day. 26 total. 1 more than Babe Ruth. Lou Gehrig has just taken the home run lead away from Babe Ruth. In the press box, the reporters look at their scorecards and do the math and reach for their telephones because this is news. Not because it will last, necessarily, but because it is happening right now, and right now is what newspapers sell. The next morning, the New York Telegram runs the headline, "Odds favor Gehrig to beat out Ruth in home run derby." That headline, sitting above a story about the quiet first baseman from the Bronx, who just passed the Sultan of Swat in a home run race on Independence Day, is not wishful thinking. It is a reasonable mathematical assessment of what the numbers actually say. Baseball Almanac. And here is where the story gets complicated. Because what happens in the Yankees' dugout after Gehrig's second home run of the day, after the 23-year-old cleanup hitter steps in front of his legendary teammate on the leaderboard, is something that nobody in that stadium fully understands in the moment. Babe Ruth sees it. Ruth, who tracks these numbers with the competitive attention of a man whose identity is bound up in being the best, who knows exactly how many home runs he has, and exactly how many everyone else has, who understands what it means when the man batting behind you passes you. Ruth sees it and says nothing. Because that is not what Ruth does in these moments. What Ruth does is go to work. Through July and August, the two of them were never separated by more than 2 home runs. Back and forth, day by day, the newspaper tallies shifting slightly one direction and then the other. Gehrig leads by 1, Ruth ties him, Ruth leads by 1, Gehrig ties him. The pennant race is over by August. The Yankees are 19 games ahead and nobody is catching them, so the only question left is this one, the home run race. The two men batting 3 and 4 in the same lineup, competing for the same number, the quiet one and the theatrical one, the one the crowd came to see and the one the crowd keeps being surprised by. By early August it was Gehrig, not Ruth, at the top of the home run leaderboard with 38. 38 home runs by the 1st of August. On pace to break the record Ruth set in 1921. The math is being done every morning in every newspaper office in America, and the math keeps coming back to the same answer. The quiet man is ahead, and the quiet man is on pace, and the quiet man might actually do this. This great game, and then Ruth gets hot. Not regular Ruth hot. September Ruth hot. The specific gear that Ruth finds in the final weeks of seasons that nobody else in baseball has ever been able to access. Ruth hit 17 home runs in September 1927, the best single-month total of his 22-year career. 17. In 1 month. While Gehrig, who has been matching him stride for stride since April, settles into his normal, excellent pace and watches the gap open. Gehrig took the lead one final time, 45-44, in the first game of a doubleheader at Fenway Park early in September. Ruth responded with 2 home runs of his own to take the lead permanently. Baseball Hall of Fame. And here is where it gets interesting. Because during those weeks in July when Gehrig is ahead, when the morning papers are running the side-by-side tallies and Gehrig's number is bigger, something revealing happens in the press coverage. The New York Times runs a piece with the headline, "Fans worship Ruth but forget Gehrig. Though Babe trails Lou in home runs, he leads him in popular appeal to crowds." Read that again. Gehrig is ahead in home runs. The story being written about that fact is that people still love Ruth more. Gehrig leads the race, and the headline is about the other guy. That tells you everything about the summer of 1927, and everything about what it meant to be Lou Gehrig on this particular team, in this particular era. Being ahead of Ruth was not enough to become the story. It was enough to become a detail inside the Ruth story. The quiet man out front. Interesting. How does Ruth feel about it? That's the headline. Through August, the race stayed tight. Both men never separated by more than 2. Pitchers tried everything. Working Ruth outside, working Gehrig inside, changing speeds, changing arms, bringing in left-handers and right-handers, and knuckleball specialists, and none of it worked for long, because the 2 most dangerous hitters in baseball were locked in, and neither of them was going to cool down voluntarily. Every morning the tallies went into the newspapers. Every afternoon the tallies changed. The city watched the way it watches a horse race, not always understanding exactly what it's seeing, but unable to look away. By early August, Gehrig had 38. Ruth had 36. The math, done every morning by sports writers who were starting to take this seriously, kept coming back to the same uncomfortable possibility that the cleanup hitter, the quiet one, the one batting behind Ruth, was on pace to break the record that Ruth set in 1921, and that everyone assumed would belong to Ruth forever. And then September arrived, and Ruth remembered who he was. Ruth finishes with 60. Gehrig finishes with 47. The record is broken. The season belongs to Ruth. The winter is full of stories about the 60 and the record, and the man who stands in the right field bleachers at Yankee Stadium and watches them land. But on July 4th, on Independence Day, in the middle of the greatest team ever assembled, in the stadium named for the man everyone assumed would lead the home run race from April to October, Lou Gehrig stepped in front of Babe Ruth. For a few weeks in the summer of 1927, the morning newspapers told a different story than the one history remembers. The quiet man was ahead. The math favored Gehrig. And then September came, and Ruth remembered who he was. Ruth gave Gehrig credit years later. Pitchers began pitching to me because if they passed me, they still had Lou to contend with. The man who hit 60 home runs in 1927 acknowledged that the reason he got pitches to hit was the man batting behind him. That the record exists in part because of Lou Gehrig. That is the July 4th story, not the headline Ruth made, the one Gehrig set up. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe and drop a comment below. I read every one. See you in the next one.